think as a parent, you are, you're making decisions, and this is not a one shoe fits all. And this is also, this treatment option requires time. It requires so much time. And I think I've said this before, where I've said, this is your time to be patient. This is your time to get to know your child's body and how it works. So like I said, even though this is not a one shoe fits all, this is, I think, one of those, choices that you're going to make for your child, but it's also a journey, just like this is, my and my daughter's journey and what we've done. But I would honestly say, like, if you're in a place right now where you can make the best decision for your child, you want it to be a treatment option that looks at the body as a whole, rather than let's just suppress the symptoms and hope for the best, if it works or not. Hey guys, welcome back to Healing with AJ. My name is and hello to the new followers, to those that started out with us, and if you're new here, welcome. I don't know where you are in your journey in managing eczema, or where you are on your journey in TSW, if you have decided to stop topical steroids and oral steroids like us, and maybe you are also on the verge of being prescribed or going down the road of immunosuppressant treatments like cyclosporine, methotrexate, and Dupixent, like we were. And then you're just kind of just in that space where you're just like, nope. This, especially if you have really read into those treatment options and the side effects are overwhelming, and you're just stuck, and you're just feeling still very much in the trenches with your child, or even if yourself, I don't know who you are, like even if it's for you as well, if you do see this video and you're going through it and you're an adult. But which again, I cannot speak for everyone. I can only, guys, I started doing these videos just to kind of give other people hope, and for my daughter, just simply because she's been through it. If she's been through it and she can get through it, I hope that it gives someone hope who comes across my videos or our videos and just, does a turnaround like we did and just take the other route, which is the natural route. One of the videos that you guys have asked us to make is, or asked me to make, I should say, is about AJ's journey and why we decided on traditional Chinese medicine. I think why, as a mom, I chose that route is simply because having, like I've said before, having been on topical steroids, AJ having been on topical steroids and oral steroids for a period of 5 years, and then that, the possibility, or at the time, just her needing immunosuppressant treatment because topical steroids stopped working. I kid you not, guys, just something had to give, and I just knew that it just wasn't going to be the immunosuppressant route after I read through everything. So even if take away the fact that I am a nurse by background, mental health nurse at that, with general knowledge of general nursing, I still really felt like my heart just wasn't in, or just regardless of like how uncomfortable she had been. And she had already been uncomfortable for about a year before the decision had to be made for her to go on immunosuppressant treatment. So I thought, you know what, going through the research and just deciding like, okay, there's something else that maybe we haven't considered. And during that time, as I was reading and looking at things, obviously I'm not sleeping. We're all up at night anyway. Disrupt sleep, I might as well read into different treatment options. And I think that's when I stumbled upon traditional Chinese medicine on the National Eczema Society. So I started reading up on it and realized there was a lot of research on it. And it was then I realized that if this was a treatment option that had been acknowledged for years, even before my child, and people had tried it, I started to then meet some of my friends actually, and their mums were seeing my daughter's skin and they were just like, hey, we've been here before and this is what we tried. And the fact that I knew some people whose parents were confirming that their daughters also had eczema just as bad as my daughters, they had food allergies and environmental allergies just like my daughter as well, and they had tried, or not even tried, that they had being on traditional Chinese medicine when all the topical steroids didn't work. And this is obviously going years back, like, I'm in my 30s, like mid 30s. So if people had done this, I was just like, okay, I'm open to it. And I shortly after that started doing research into that. So during, again, like I've said before, I was still did the allergy testing again. We had then been eliminating the new allergies that she had acquired, but also the food sensitivities that she was known to have as well. And that's when we basically started the traditional Chinese medicine. Now, there were quite a few options for us. At the time of her starting, she was already at least 2 months into TSW her symptoms were quite intense at the time. She was withdrawing. So the options for her at the time were acupuncture, capping, and tea, but also some creams. And again, I just want to say, guys, this is not medical advice. Please, please, please do seek. You can still ask your health professional if this is an option for you, but there's also a lot of research online that you can find, that you can read upon, and you can always approach a traditional Chinese allergist or doctor or traditionalist that would basically talk you through how traditional Chinese medicine works for those with allergies and eczema as well. So yes, I honestly, one of the things that the immunosuppressant treatments that were offered for us were is it cyclosporine? So that for me, it affects kidney function and blood pressure. And I was just like, she's 5, like she was about to turn 6. I was just like, I don't want that for her. Those were like some of the side effects for that medication. And then methotrexate was the other option, which to me required a lot of like monitoring in terms of like her liver, her lungs, blood cells, like anything that required and that was going to put her in distress, but also affecting her organs. I was completely no, thank you. Dupixent, the fact that it is required for her to have, to be injected. I already had to fight with her, like have to come with someone with me to get blood tests done. I already knew how she felt about needles, and I just didn't want to put her through that every month, however long, like she was going to need it, or every 3 weeks, however long they tried to explain it at the time. I just knew that was not an option. That was going to cause distress. Yes, it's only every 3 weeks or every month, however long. I just didn't want to put her through that. And also, I think the main important thing for me as a parent is I was thinking about the long term. Longevity is very important to me in every decision that I was making for her. And I think this is why we embarked on this journey. I wanted something that was going to give her long-term effects rather than, can I start, can I stop? Is she going to have a side effect? Is there a side effect to that? Is there, what happens, for example, if she was on methotrexate and her lung or her liver function. So, there's already a lot of talk as well on, people detoxing the liver, which is something that I had always done as well. But it's like, because people do, like, there is things to say that if you detox your liver, then your eczema would not show up in that way. So it's like, for me, having done all of those things, parasite cleanses, all of that, and now I'm going to put her on something that is, again, going to still impact her liver function. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have to be on edge every single time she had a blood test, like, oh, you could come back that it's affected her liver and now we have to stop and consider something else. So there was all of that. That's pretty much why I was just, every question I was asking them, they were just like, well, there's a possibility, we don't know. Then we have to go back on the drawing board and try something else. So the good thing is, I think there are so many other people in the community, in the TSW community, in the eczema community who had tried Dupixent, and some had started and they had side effects and they had to stop, and they had other people that didn't have any effect from it. So to me, it was just like, okay, I'm not doing that. But yeah, so that's why some of these options were not for us. No judgment to whoever makes that decision to go down that road. And because again, with eczema, honestly, like it's all about trying and bringing some quality of life away from this uncomfortable period that you are going through. And that in itself, like I always say, I don't feel what she feels. I can sympathize with her and I see it, and it makes me definitely feel very hurtful as well. Like it hurts me seeing her in all that pain, especially when she was going through TSW as well. But at the same time, I just felt like I need to try and get this right. I felt like I had already got it wrong with the topical steroids, so I had to move away from that. What didn't sit right with me, again, is the fact that suppressing her immune system as well was just another thing of like, her body was already reacting to that. So suppressing the immunity when she already enjoys school, she enjoys activities. So restricting that is, as a child already that had already had really, really severe infections like hand, foot and mouth, and we saw how that played out. Her also having having a really severe staph infection, which that happened like a year into her TSW journey. But again, that was triggered by scarlet fever. So to me, it was just like her body was already in overdrive, like the multiple food allergies, the environmental allergies. So to add a immunosuppressant treatment to me did not guarantee me that she would not be susceptible. Her immune was just going to be completely even more compromised, because at this point, can she even fight anything off? Possibly not. So yeah, I just had to be honest with you, I just had to make that decision and just say like that wasn't the options for us. Her life was already limited and impacted at this point. There was no quality of life for her as it is during TSW. So I just felt like we just had to ride through it, but with the help of looking at TMT, traditional Chinese medicine, and just thinking, hey, this could possibly be it for us. Like this could be it. So we met with a traditional Chinese doctor, but she was also an allergist as well. So that is when, and reading again, like I said, you can read on the National Eczema Society, there's quite a lot of information on there. But when we met with the doctor, and she explained that it doesn't, like basically she explained that it looks at the body as a whole, okay? And when they look at the whole body, they're looking at the inflammation, the gut health, and the immune imbalance, and the internal heat and how the body responds to the triggers. And because she was so hypersensitive at the time, she basically said like, this is not like a one shoe fits all. We have to look at her case and just see like how she is, and individualized her treatment according to like how she was presenting at the time. And I think I've mentioned this before in my Instagram, where I've said that it's important that you don't just say, oh, okay, what tea are you drinking? Like, what tea is your child drinking? Can I just buy the same tea? No, please go out and see a Chinese traditionalist, let them assess them. So my daughter had, they would look at her tongue, they would look at her skin, they would check her pulse rate, and just really examine the skin thoroughly. And then they will basically devise like a plan, if it was a tea, which is what we opted for. They did give us a cream, but it really stung her at the time, because if anybody knows like the early stages of TSW, the child's body is oozing, it's flaking a lot, the new skin barrier, like it's shedding that old skin barrier, and new skin's coming through, but it's just going through all that, oozing and stuff. So it was stinging her, so we just kind of decided to stick with the tea. She also said that they could do capping. My daughter's belly was quite extended at the time, at the beginning of TSW. Her diet was limited as it is, so what she used to say is that they gave her that really strong herbs, which I had to boil, and she would have to drink twice a day. The other thing they were also recommended was acupuncture, but because I already knew how she was with needles, and she did say like, she's still young, so maybe let's give acupuncture a go, maybe after like 2 years of her being on the tea, or a year after being on the tea, if the topical steroid symptoms intensify. But at the time, like she seemed to do really well on the tea. After like a month or so, she started to gradually that intense itchiness was starting to come down a little bit. So yes, she remained hypersensitive to, being in rooms where there was carpet or dust or, things like that, but it just wasn't as intense. So we had to also change her diet, change the way I was doing things basically as well. And that for me, with like, how do you camouflage basically, like changing her diet, for example, we had to stop giving her like cold drinks during that time. It had to be lukewarm. Her water that she was drinking had to either be lukewarm or not even like room temperature, but relatively more warmer than room temperature water. So which is something I've got in a habit of doing, like every morning, even with her water bottle, like I put warm water in it, like hot water in it, and mix it with the cold water. Just changing, like avoiding cold drinks, or avoiding cold like things like ice cream during that time. So that's another thing that we were advised to do. But also, I think most importantly for us is, the way she kind of explained it was like, we need to get to the root cause, but it's like also like kind of flashing the body. Flashing. It's like the blood goes through like this cleanse. It's like you want to cleanse the body, and whatever the allergies are, you want to have them under control. And it just makes sense to me, like, how do we, how the body reacts. So the end goal ultimately with the traditional Chinese medicine is that they just won't be as hypersensitive to the allergens as they are now. And that for me was just great. It was just great. And it was great for me. It was great for me hearing that. So again, I'm not obviously telling anyone. Hold on, guys, 1 second. So again, like I said, I think as a parent, you're making decisions, and this is not a one shoe fits all. And this is also, this treatment option requires time. It requires so much time. And I think I've said this before, where I've said, this is your time to be patient. This is your time to get to know your child's body and how it works. So like I said, even though this is not a one shoe fits all, this is, I think, one of those choices that you're going to make for your child, but it's also a journey, just like this is, my and my daughter's journey and what we've done. But I would honestly say, like, if you're in a place right now where you can make the best decision for your child, you want it to be a treatment option that looks at the body as a whole, rather than let's just suppress the symptoms and hope for the best, if it works or not. But then at the same time, do you want your child, do you see your child being on medication for the rest of their life, possibly, or when do they stop? And I think for me that's so important. Like, it's always been important for me, is like, when do they stop? But the evidence and examples I have seen of those that have been on traditional Chinese medicine has been lasting. There's been lasting results, and and now that I personally am seeing the results of that in my daughter's skin. Yes, you still have to eliminate, but I've also seen, when I have retested her sensitivities to some foods and the tolerance, it's gone down. So I am attributing it to the fact that maybe it is the traditional Chinese medicine, because some of the people that I have met who were on traditional Chinese medicine as young children, they are now able to eat the foods they were allergic to, not even just the ones that they were just sensitive to, but more of like the foods that they were actually allergic to, like anaphylaxis reactions. So it's interesting. But yes, they report reactions to maybe when they're stressed, but then those reactions are not as bad as the ones that your child's experiencing now. So yeah, I would just say that that's really why we chose traditional Chinese medicine, is just the mere fact that it looks at the body as a whole. It's natural treatment options rather than anything that's actually impacting the organs that are already possibly struggling. So for me, it's absolutely important. It was important to us to just kind of like go back on the drawing board and just say, well, let's try and do this naturally and the best way we can. And it has paid off. I would say it's paid off. Yes, we're 2 years in. I think as time goes on, like I said, please consult a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. They would be best to advise you. So when we started out on a really, really strong tea, and we were on that tea for about a year. And then it was stepped down to the teas that she's having now, which are not as strong, because again, like every assessment that she has done, they kind of commented like, okay, she's doesn't need to be here anymore, she needs a different tea. So there's not as much dampness and heat in her body. Again, these are the things that they'll tell you. I know like some of us think like, oh, like the skin is so dry, let's give them, like, make sure that they're drinking so much water. They don't really need to drink that much water. Like they can drink enough, like just drink, even if it's like a bottle of water, it's fine, it's a day. Like if so that's one of the things that I also had to change. Like I said, make sure the water is warm, lukewarm, or room temperature water. Try and avoid processed foods. Another thing that we did in terms of like her diet, we had to avoid processed foods. So not that she was having processed foods before, because again, I think I've mentioned in my previous video that in terms of like her diet, I've always been quite disciplined in making sure that she has her meals as she should, and fruit and veg. So anything that she's not allergic to, or sensitive to, it's in her diet, is, you know, but anything that they are sensitive to, when it comes to the diet, just try and avoid processed foods as much as possible. You like fried, oily foods as well. That's another thing that they would advise you not to do. To be fair, not to say that we don't, I do. I just don't offer things like maybe once a week as a treat. She might have McDonald's after her class, because that's usually like on a Saturday, and when she finishes it's like lunchtime. So that's the one time that she would, and even then she just has the like the chips and the beef patty. So obviously she can't have the bun because it's wheat. Yeah, just something like that. You're not completely eliminating everything. And then throughout the week, she's, again, like I said, like on a Friday, I think at school, she will take part with, you know, just kind of eating chips with everybody else. But yeah, I would say avoid like a lot of like, you know, things like cold things in their diet. Water, make sure that it's lukewarm or room temperature. Things like ice cream, sweets, chocolates, things like that. Like, you don't want so much of that in their diet. So you just, yeah, they will tell you to try and avoid all of that. But no, it wasn't so difficult for us personally, because AJ is quite disciplined and I'm quite disciplined. I see through. So she didn't really have that. She might have a hot chocolate once a week with a marshmallow in it, but again, that's just because it's just cocoa, and with oat milk or soya milk, it just really depends. So she doesn't have a soya allergy. It's just keeping their diet really, really clean, and not to say like, you know, they can't. It all has to be in moderation, really, like in a lot of like moderation. So, but yeah. So I think that's it, guys. I would say that's it. So yeah, and to be fair with you, like TMC, I don't know, I just felt like, okay, other than the fact that it is going to be costing you money, and maybe those treatments are not going to be coming out of your pocket, but I would say, like, I wish I started out this way in the beginning, but obviously I didn't, and here we are. But I will attach some pictures of how AJ's skin looks like right now. She's going through I think it's like a climate change at the moment. We are in spring at the moment. So she does have a flare, but nothing like how she would flare before. So I think that in itself is great. Yes, so I would say, I don't know, it's worth considering. Chinese medicine is worth considering and looking into, and I think that is some of the reasons why we chose traditional Chinese medicine, is that, like I said, it literally looks at the whole body. And for a child like AJ who has the atopic trade, which is atopic dermatitis, and, you know, several food allergies, several environmental allergies, I didn't know, like, I wanted something that that did not require any distressing side effects. So that's the reason why we chose traditional Chinese medicine. Thank you guys, and thank you. Thank you guys. I see you in another video. Comment, like, subscribe, and let us know what you would like to hear from us. Thank you. Bye.